Welcome. I think we had this notice to begin at 2 o'clock, and we're really close. We're live streaming because we think it's important for government transparency and so everybody can see what we're talking about at these. It also makes it easier then for Andrea, if she has questions concerning the minutes, to be able to go back and review the tape and make sure what happened instead of a audio recording where you don't know who's talking and who's not, and it just seems to be much simpler. We like to be in the council room because then they can stop when we go into caucus. This camera is set up that it remains live streaming until shut off. So what we've done is we have this fancy sign taped to a box over there that we put in front so everybody can see that we're in caucus, and then you guys can go to this conference room and we'll use the legal conference room for caucuses. But just so everybody knows that from this point until we shut it down today, it's live streaming everything that's happening in this room. So if you don't want to say something that's live streamed out, then that's where we're at.
Sounds good.
And what I do with my team is sitting at the front table here. We can start down here with the chief, and if you'll introduce yourself, and then we'll just move down and state your name, and then if you guys can do the same thing, we have a record who's on whose team.
Scott Marchand, Chief of Police.
Roger Scheid, Deputy Chief.
Scott Moritz, negotiator.
Heather Buchanan, Human Resources Director.
Ashley Welsh, Senior Accountant.
Jared Johnson, City Attorney. Hope to advance from the kitty table eventually.
Live streaming.
Mary Rasmussen, Police Crime Analyst.
Brandon Bell, I'm the Secretary.
Val Wadsworth, Union President.
Patrick Davis, represent FOP. Lodge 13 at least.
Akira Lacey, Vice President.
Now, it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, and this comes from Heather, so I'll throw her under the bus before we start. That the first meeting was projected to be, let's talk through philosophically the issues rather than everybody kind of shoot in the dark and bring proposals. That a lot of times, like last year, we bought almost same proposals and stuff with really different language, that it may have been much simpler if we hadn't have done that, and that's kind of get around that. So that's what our concept was of today's meeting, is kind of see from you guys, especially where you see the primary issues are, the changes, the issues you want to change, and kind of get some feel for those, and then we can start crafting language to go back and forth and try to resolve whatever those issues might be. Does that work?
Yeah, we have our working list here.
Okay.
So first and foremost, of course, is increase in the pay scale. And I know Heather's been working on that since last year.
You need to leave the door open as much as possible.
After the increase in the pay scale, we're looking at the comp time bank increase, vacation bank increase, shift differential increase.
Shift differential?
Yeah. You want to address the directed time off for overtime manpower issues pertaining to training and covering shifts and other officers' time off.
Laying on the floor next to the toilet.
Okay.
You missed the word
It's not an increase. It's not in there, I didn't miss it.
Training and what, Val, did you say? Directed time off?
Training, covering others' time off, etc.
Backfilling shifts, is that what you're talking about?
Basically, our concern is keeping enough people on the street to do the job safely. We're currently still working out sick time payout. We haven't come to a complete resolution within the union body yet. still working on it. We need to include the CBA, in the CBA, that the union representative will be on the board for future chief selections. That's in the PAR, but not in the CBA.
So you're gonna be on the selection, have representation on selection,
Yes.
just for the chief or for any other positions?
Just chief at this point. Okay.
That's all the car covers.
That's what we're concerned about. We'd like to increase our workout time to 3 days a week, 3 hours per week instead of 2. Add to the health and longevity of our police officers.
1 hour?
1 more hour.
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Increase the gym reimbursement that the city pays from 50% to 100% with a $30 maximum. It's not asking a whole lot.
So increase gym membership to 30.
Yes. Separate non-sworn members out of the city general employee group, so they're under police department.
In what regards?
Mary?
It helps cohesion within the department.
In what
We've-
element?
As a
Discipline.
as, well, another thing we'll get to is the fact that our PAR does list the non-sworn members under our disciplinary procedures, and so I'm not sure where that mix-up came that we were not included in the HR's eyes in the PAR. So we need clarification on that, as far as that being separate, being part of the police department, and then, actually for both, so for pay as well.
So you want to move off the hybrid table?
It would most likely result in us moving off the hybrid table going forward.
So just from a general sense, you want to, the civilian staff wants to be under the auspices of the police department for all purposes.
That's it?
Some of them are kind of grouped together in our proposals, but I
Yeah.
single line, yeah.
Questions, thoughts? Who wants to?
I think they're all good discussions.
Okay, we'll let you pick which one you want to talk about first.
I guess we can start at the top with the, I mean, when I look at the pay scale, well, let me look at this, because
Let's wait on the pay scale. Let's talk through it.
and I guess maybe what I'm thinking is, let's talk about something that, or stuff that maybe we can resolve today that aren't as big as issues as pay, right?
We could resolve the pay scale today.
Yeah, the pay scale's the most important, that's what we want to do.
So let's talk about directed time off. So I understand that, I guess. Because I'm not sure what you're talking about. How much directed time off are you getting? I know that we adjust for training. What else are we adjusting for?
What provision in the contract is that?
Well, we wrote new language for directed time off.
Well, I understand, but I wanted to see what the existing language is.
Article 8, Section 3, sorry, 4, Section 4. Nope, it's 3, sorry.
Under the overtime provision.
Yes.
So, Chief, do you understand what the
No.
issue is?
So the example that we'll provide was last fall, at the start of the school year, SROs were directed to come in the next morning for a shift meeting. I believe it was on a Wednesday morning. They were told on Tuesday, I think in the middle of the afternoon, come in Wednesday morning for a shift meeting, an hour before their normally scheduled start time.
Okay.
While at that meeting, they were told to flex that hour off that they were directed to come in for their shift meeting. And so we had asked for some clarification when that occurred, if that, you know, where that falls in terms of the Fair Labor Standards Act. And so at this point, we would like to get some language created so that it's fair if somebody's directed to come in outside of their normal working schedule, that they'd be compensated for that.
So what are you, I mean, I understand that part of it, but what all are you gonna tie that to? You gonna tie that to training? How much notice do you have to have before we can look at it and say we need to adjust, right? Because number one, we, really where that is a big thing is not in those cases. I don't remember that part of it, but I do know what happens for training, right? It's a little bit hard to pay overtime for training when every week we're training hours and hours and hours, right? 10 hours here, 5 hours there. There are times that we get in a bind that we have to make those adjustments. When we make those adjustments, we pay for them. But that's why we build a training schedule. Training schedule comes out early so you can make those adjustments. If you want to pay overtime for all that, I get it. But then you're going to run out of overtime when we need it, when something bad happens. And now we're doing just what you're saying, right? We're dialing up the phone saying you need to come in. That's where we pay. So I'm against, I guess, for the most part, I don't want to pay overtime for training. I don't want to pay overtime for training because that'll kill our budget. So we make those adjustments. We make that directed time off as much as we can. I understand this because maybe it was short term, but if they told them on Monday, Wednesday, you need to come in an hour early, figure it out, do I really want to pay an hour overtime for that meeting?
Sure.
You know what, I'm looking at it from a business end. I understand what you're saying, right? But we pay a ton of overtime for the right reasons. And I don't know if that's the right reason.
I think some of the issue though right now is when we're working, what are we, 6 short right now? And so we're getting, if we are allowed to go through training, which there's some trainings that we've been denied due to manpower, right? But if we are allowed to go through training, and then they say, well, yeah, if you work weekends and you go to training for 2 days during the week, so Monday, Tuesday, and then if you do that, you got to flex off, you know, Friday, Saturday, or whatever. But we're so short with people. If somebody calls in sick or anything like that, then it ends up making it that the shift that's there, the guys that maybe didn't train or just working a normal shift, have to work even harder to make up for the fact.
Well, we shouldn't, I guess, from my end, and I haven't seen it, so in that scenario, I'm saying call the guy that's off, right? Call the guy that trained Monday and Tuesday and tell him to come in and work. We need you on your shift. We're short for this reason. Part of what hasn't happened, to a little bit of a point, but not a huge one, you know, we put the heat on the sergeants. That's your shift. Pay attention to it, right? You need to, who's off and who's not. They don't control who calls in sick, right? So once that happens, then we start backfilling shifts. So how do you backfill that shift? You backfill that shift with the guy that worked Monday and Tuesday and you let off. Is he your first call? Number one, and is he obligated to come? Right? That becomes the next problem. Well, I worked Monday and Tuesday, I'm flexing Friday and Saturday, so I made plans, and now you're calling me and telling me I need to come in, right? So I understand what you're saying, but I think it builds a little more problems than just this is the way we're gonna do it. I think we need to find the right way to do it and come to an agreement on directed time off. When can we use it and when can't we? And how much notice do you have? Because I also don't wanna get in a position or see you guys in a position of, well, really all I need to do is give them a week's notice every time and I'm not paying. Because it becomes inconvenient, right? Meetings become inconvenient and they become more inconvenient to be quite honest with you, sergeants, lieutenants, because we bring them into other meetings mostly on their days off, right? Nighttime guys. So we compensate them for that, but we also allow them to direct that time off. If I have a meeting on Wednesday, on the afternoon, sergeant, and I have a meeting at 7 o'clock on Wednesday morning, I can go home early on Tuesday. So I can be at my meeting that I need to be at there, right? And
Well, we're
so I think
trying-
it's a little bit tougher than just saying this is the way we're gonna do it.
The unplanned and unexpected is the time that we're, specifically
And
talking about.
I'm good with that.
Where that example we gave, was unexpected, right?
Do you know what the meeting was about?
I think it's just I think they meet once a week for a shift meeting
To join into a squad meeting, probably to see what's going on.
They should have more notice than that. but-
And so I think that the breakdown that we got, Heather, correct me if I'm wrong, is if it's within that pay period, it would probably fall within the unexpected and unplanned. However, if it's in advance, it would be
Between the
something
pay
that
period
we
or
can
the
try to work on.
FLSA cycle.
Okay, and what is the FLSA say?
Officers is different than civilians, so it depends on if you're only talking about sworn. So we would have to differentiate that out.
What is it?
I think officers run on a 7-day cycle.
Oh,
And
we're on-
then
we're on
It's
80 hours.
Yeah,
Right.
80 hours, and civilians run on a week cycle.
So are you saying that on Monday of this week, 2 Fridays from now, which is a payday, okay, so 2 weeks ahead, you're asked to go to a meeting on that Friday, we're paying overtime for that? We have to give more than 2 weeks' notice?
I think based off of the definition of the work cycle of 80 hours, if it's within that 80 hours, it would be unplanned and unexpected. I mean, we can come up with whatever, but we want, hey, tomorrow you need to come in an hour early, and then while you're there, hey, you're not getting compensated for overtime. We need you to go home an hour early today. Well, I just changed my whole schedule around, I changed, the
I
date
understand,
and everything else.
right, I understand that, and I agree with that. I don't agree with the 2 weeks.
It's more of a notice issue than.
Well, yeah, it becomes what is it and why is it?
So then what
You
is
know,
reasonable?
I don't know if we pay attention to that as much as we should, right? Why are we bringing you in an hour early?
Well, I
So
think
what
it
would be a reasonable time period?
Well, I
If 2
think-
weeks is unreasonable, then what is?
Well, I think it would be more reasonable, beyond that. The FLSA cycle is not gonna work, because I could tell you Friday that I need you Sunday, and that's gonna be different FLSA cycles. So you're probably gonna wanna go with a set amount of days, and that's reasonable, but the FLSA
Or
cycle
hours.
won't work, because, it could be a day notice when you span the FLSA cycles. So it would probably be
Sure.
better going with an actual number of days or number of hours.
I think you're gonna wanna do hours because of the way our shifts are, right? How are you
Well,
gonna
then-
describe a day, just,
Sure, that makes sense.
you know what I mean? So
Well,
is
if
it
you work
48 hours?
Monday morning at 7 and you work Monday at 11 PM, you're right, you're gonna wanna go to hours.
So then back to the question, what would be a reasonable time period?
The officers are the ones that are changing the schedules. You're the ones that are getting the detrimental effect of being called in for a meeting on last notice.
But it's just not the meetings, there's more to it.
I understand that, but is 48 hours reasonable in your mind?
I don't think so.
Okay, so what is?
That's what I think we're trying to establish is, where's the middle ground here? What do you guys think is fair? And I mean, in terms of like somebody that has a family and trying to change, an entire schedule with a family of 4 or 5 or more, maybe more around, I think you need probably, probably like 4 days. 96 hours, I think would probably be fair if we were working 4/10s, things like that. That would at least cover that week that you normally work. I mean, that's 4 entire 24-hour cycles, and so that's a work week generally for most patrol officers. And that would also fall with detectives as well.
So what would the starting point be? The end of the shift?
Well, I mean, 96 hours, just 96 hours.
Well, from
if it's within
notification or from the change event?
I would say notification.
That's 2 weeks. That's 96 hours, more than
96
4
hours
days.
is 4 days. Exactly.
Not work days.
Oh, you're saying 4 complete days, not the 10 hours?
Yeah, not the shift length, but just
I don't know.
4 complete
I
days.
don't, I think,
Well, and we can talk about it, but I'm just.
I think that's something to look at, but I also, I think it brings from our end more to the equation now, right? Because it becomes bigger than just that. Now it's who's gonna show up, when are you gonna show up? What are we talking about? What issues are we talking about? How do we do it? It's bigger than just saying, here's the time.
Yeah, I agree.
So I really, that's something I would like to look at before. Because I think 48, 2 full days would be enough time, but I want to look at the other end of it.
Yeah, we need to look at the other end of it.
Okay.
When guys go to training, there's no doubt that it benefits the department, which benefits the city in general, benefits each of us sitting side by side and going to calls together. If you hold somebody out of training for manpower because you don't have the manpower to cover it because you don't want to spend the overtime, then you're costing training to the department members. And alongside that goes, if SWAT guy goes to training, I get stuck back working all the time. Every Thursday, he's off, he's got to flex another day. I start getting annoyed with that, and then I start becoming resentful toward the SWAT guy because he's off all the time. I got to keep covering the shifts just because we're trying to avoid overtime. I don't think that's right to the guys in general. It's not right to the city. It's not right to the police department.
Maybe we need to look at how we train. Right?
And a lot of this could be done from a managerial, point of view of organizing.
But we
meetings better.
won't come to the same conclusion.
Sure.
Managers versus people that want to train, right? Or training. And I've said it from day one. Training is an insurance policy to me. Training is an insurance policy to the city.
And we've seen those benefits time and time again.
And stack us up against anybody in the state, right?
Exactly.
But it costs a little bit to train,
It does.
right? So you put all your eggs in that basket, right? We can certainly look at, okay, this is the way we want to train, and this is how we want to do it, and this is where we want to pay our overtime. And I'm sure I can get the city to say, yep, we get it, because they'll agree that it is an insurance policy, right? That money's got to come from somewhere. So now you got to start thinking. And this is just me, this is my opinion, nobody else's, right? So now, when you look at that big picture, do you want to come back up here to increase the pay scale to train, comp time to train? And how much can I sit down and look at it and say, this is what I think it's going to cost us to train? And I can bring it, the Thursday training, I can kind of bring in and wrangle those dollars up, right? I don't think we've ever done it. We've never worried about it, but maybe that's something we look at and say, in a year, if we're paying overtime to do this is what it's going to cost us, right? And then look at your training budget and look at where we're sending people to train and how much that costs us. Because we pay a lot of money for people to train, and we pay extra money, right, to travel them around the world to do it. Because again, on my end of it, we can certainly keep people in Pocatello and train them up all day long, but you need different views. So we've tried to do that. I think we've been pretty good at sending people around to do those things. So it becomes bigger than just that one issue.
I agree.
Okay. I mean, and I think as easy as I thought that was going to be, nothing's easy.
Right.
So we're going to want to look at some numbers on our end and be able to give you some factual numbers of this is what it's going to cost and is it really worth it? Okay.
All right.
All right.
So what I'm hearing is whatever we put in the contract will be complied with, but it has the potential of putting pressure on, from a budgetary standpoint, of the department not scheduling certain training just because of the excess cost, because of the obligations under the contract.
Well, it becomes, I mean, the DTO part of it, he absolutely makes the right argument, right? I have to work while they train.
That's right.
And after time, because we're telling them, and we're not gonna pay overtime, so if you train today, you're not coming to work, and it's a double up day, so the sergeant that works with him is off every other Thursday, and he can't get every other Thursday off, so we have that, and that's how our schedule's built right now. So, I mean, the point is very well taken. The cost, I don't know what it is, and I think it's gonna be great, so that's what I have to look at.
So we need to gather data.
That's fine.
Okay.
What's next we're gonna talk about, Chief? You're doing
Um,
such a good job, we'll just let you run.
well, do you wanna talk about shift differential? Is that all right? That's a,
Whatever you wanna talk about. We gotta talk about them all, so.
yeah, let's talk about that.
I'm not sure when the last time the shift differential's been looked at or increased. I'm sure it's been several years. We'd like to see an increase in that.
What is it, man?
25, 40, 68.
Sorry.
It was like 2 years ago, wasn't it, Chad?
Article 7,
I
Section
think we
1.
did it 3 years ago.
That was 3 years ago we did
And
it.
we increased it by,
Page 5, Article
Well, we
7.
added the 25 cent for the midday and then we.
oh, that's right,
We bumped the
midnight.
35 to 40 and then I think 60 to 68.
Yeah, we didn't deal with that last year, as I recall. It was the year before. What are you guys are proposing, with respect to?
15-cent increase on each shift.
So midday goes to 30, swing goes to 55, and midnight goes to 83?
Yep.
Have you costed that out to know what the total cost of that is?
No.
$0.15 each, is that what he said?
Yeah, 15 cents each.
3 nickels.
Actually, for a dime and a nickel. 15 cents.
Or I give you a quarter, and you give me a dime back.
Yeah.
And just because, general just inflationary factors.
Well, it motivates people to work different shifts. You know, usually a midnight shift is full of guys that are lower on seniority. So you increase the pay, you might incentivize somebody with experience to get on there, maybe mentor them, help them become better officers and, you know, have better service on the streets.
Are you finding that you're having trouble filling those different shifts?
They're the last to get filled when the bid takes place.
Okay, is the midnight shift?
Yeah, midnight weekends, which I'm sure you understand.
So it's kind of a default then. Whoever
Yeah.
can't bid something better.
For the majority, yes. Occasionally, there's somebody that may take that because it helps with their daycare schedule, keep their costs down at home. But generally, I'd say that's the last shift to get filled.
So does it make sense to not increase across the board and to look at increasing more at midnight, less at the others?
No, because swings is a different aspect as far as what your life is like. It's just, your life is just work. When you're working, you can't do anything before, you can't do anything after. So family events, whatever. So you want everybody to feel, if I'm stuck on a shift like that, I should be rewarded a little bit. So you want to increase them.
So my question would be, why wouldn't we increase it for the 3 shifts on weekends?
Well, you're still having the same, you're still missing the same stuff. You're still missing dinner, putting your kids to bed when you work swings Monday through Thursdays.
But there's a weekend difference, right? And if I look at the weekend schedule, I can almost show you that it's all brand new guys, for the most part, right? That probably the last thing to get bid is weekend swings and nights, right? Because I mean, again, I understand it, but there's different options to look at to get people to work those areas, right? Older guys, that from a management end, you could make that happen. From a morale end, doesn't make people happy, right? So part of it is that if those are the toughest ones, wouldn't we increase the week? I'm not saying you can't increase all of them, but wouldn't you increase the weekends more than the other ones, or you just think it should be across the board? Because if it's across the board, it's not gonna fill the shifts any differently. I don't think, because everything stays the same, it's just more money. I'm making the same money if I'm working midnights Monday through Thursday as I am if I'm working Thursday through Sunday. It's the same money, so.
So you're suggesting adding another layer to this and that you have a.
Well,
Well, incentivize
Maybe you go
The
5,
hardest.
10, 15.
Yeah, instead of just having across the board, that's what I was trying to get at, is
Okay.
what is, if we need to incentivize certain shifts, is 15 cents really enough? Or does it make sense
I don't
to
think it
provide
is.
more, you know, to provide more, to
Somebody
make
on
it,
midnight.
to make it a true incentive?
Yeah. You talked me into it, we'll raise it. I'm easy.
But again, it still comes down to the overall cost. And we're dealing with a single sugar bowl, and the cost of one thing deteriorates the cost of, or the ability to pay for other things, and it's setting priorities and what's the most important. But at least understanding and figuring out what helps solve the problem, and what the cost is to solve that problem in the best way possible. Good discussion.
But I think that you chose the order, so that's what we're
Right, I mean, if you
talking
wanna talk
about.
about priorities, let's just go
We're not
right
doing
No,
any
I think you have
priorities.
to, I think you have to get all the
I think we
cost
should.
factors out on the table and.
Right, but
and-
if something's gonna be, I mean, to take your analogy of the Sugar Bowl, if something's gonna be sacrificed at the cost of something else, then the priority on this side of the table is the pay scale. So maybe we should take that
Sure,
first.
and I'll guarantee you that we won't agree on a pay scale until we know all the cost differentials on all of the other aspects. And then you guys can determine whether or not.
But I mean, you
paying-
could always say,
paying
well,
for-
we gave you
paying
the
for
pay scale,
this-
so we can't do that. I mean,
We never agreed to a pay scale without having all of the issues at least discussed and understanding the cost factors of each. Because there's things that when we sit and go through and the department people say, that's a great idea and that's something that we want. That's going to help the department do this, this, and this, and this cost is associated with it. We may absolutely agree with you.
Laura, my understanding was that we weren't gonna strike a deal today.
We're not, I'm just saying
Okay.
that when we get everything on the table and gone through,
Sure.
and we know the cost aspects, that's when the prioritization
Sure.
generally starts.
Well, why don't we go with pay scale then? Because on this side of the table, that's all they're gonna be thinking about when we're talking about all the other.
Sure, if you
things.
want to talk about the pay scale, what you want, have at it. I got a problem with that.
Are we talking about a sworn pay scale or a civilian pay scale?
So,
Sworn.
How do I hook up to this fancy thing?
It's not-
I'm just getting ready to exceed the one. Maybe not.
And do you have hard copies of this?
Yeah, I'll pass out some stuff to you as we go. All right, so we're gonna talk about pay. You can do some Q&A if you want. I'll provide you some documentation and things like that. We can answer any questions you have as we go. So just a little bit of historical info. Pocatello Police used to be one of the highest paid agencies, especially in this area, about 10 years ago. We've had little pay adjustments, if none, over the past few years. As the cost of benefits and healthcare continue to increase, there's a large number of our membership that have not seen a pay increase. With that, officers are taking home less money on their paychecks than they were approximately 3 years ago. With them not seeing a pay raise, cost of premiums going up, their checks are smaller, which is creating hardships for them.
Frank, you have this on hard copy as well?
I can get that.
Sure, he's got hard copies in front of him.
Okay, because everything we submit here, the hard copy needs to be attached to the minutes, so.
We can make that
Any
happen.
of these slides.
Okay. Was there anything else? Sorry.
No, I thought you were
Yeah.
just a procedural issue.
Union members have led the way for the city when it comes to longevity. We feel like that was a great stride for us to take that first step there that has made a great financial impact with the city for the city's benefit. Union members have been told that next year the pay deficiency would be corrected, and that's been told for the last few years. Talking about training and replacing officers, we have a couple breakdowns here. I'll pass it around. We just send these around the table. We got one for everybody here. The cost to train new officers for posts, looking at breaking down, and you'll see in the handout, between the wages for 15 weeks, 40 hours a week, at a new recruit cost, which is $21.60 an hour. That total cost is nearly $13,000 if you add the travel costs, which is paid on your way to post initially and then your way home. We come to a total of $13,182.80. The mini academy, which is done for all new recruits, is a total of 6 weeks. A 6 weeks wage for a new recruit is $5,184. To instruct that at a master patrol step 2 pay grade of $25.78 an hour is $6,187.20. When you include role players or secondary instructors, that cost goes up about $15.46 per mini academy, and that's at 10 hours a week for the 6 weeks. The total cost to put on the mini academy for the instructors in that one recruit is $14,464.80. Once a recruit's done with the mini academy, they move generally into a field training program, which is generally 16 weeks if that employee is successful in that, and their field training program does not get extended. At the rate of $21.60 an hour for 16 weeks at 40 hours a week with no overtime, that's $13,824. Should be noted that there's often overtime each week in the area of 2 to 10 hours for a rookie that is training. The trainer cost, which is based off of a Master Patrol Step 2 level, which is about the median wage between our field training officers, is $16,499.20. A few years ago, we added an incentive that went to $35 a day for a trainer. So at 16 weeks, 4 days a week, 4 days a week, $35 is $2,240. The total field training cost then equates to $32,563. Our uniform costs were provided by the quartermaster for uniform costs of $765.04, with the equipment cost of $8,088.87 for a total of equipment and uniform cost of $8,853.91. Talking a little bit about what it takes to get that person hired, through the course of a background investigation, which was computed off of a corporal or detective third step pay rate of $28.86. The average provided by Sergeant McClure detectives for a detective to do a background is about 20 hours. That cost is $577.20. Adding in CVSAs and polygraphs, $288.60 at the same rate of pay. And then some just ballpark numbers for a training sergeant to get that person to all their testing, as well as get them in the door for polys, CVSAs, et cetera, is about $650 for that total admin cost of $1,515.40. All in all, the total new recruit cost, not computing any overtime into it, is going to be $70,530.11. If you add benefits at the rate of 25% of that pay, it's $88,162.64 to replace an officer when they walk out the door. Do you have any questions on the cost?
Not at this time.
Is that if, when he walks out the door after the first year
That's once they've completed the field training program.
and are on their own?
They're on their
Right,
own.
okay.
Once
No
they've
more-
completed all
No
the
more money
training.
invested. Got it.
Correct. And that's not to include any remedial training, like such as a FTO or any overtime cost. Ballpark, that's probably a few extra $1,000. Talking about some officer shortages. In the past few negotiations, we've taken great strides to increase our incentives for recruitment. Those have been a priority from this side of the table to help your side of the table attract more applicants. Still, we're seeing testing numbers being historically low. I believe, what do we have for this number of
67.
67? Okay. So we have 67, usually about 2/3 show up to test. Is that accurate? So we'll be in the 40s. Once we have people pass the test, that will put us maybe around 3 dozen. And once you get through oral boards, some other disqualifiers, you might end up with maybe 2 dozen or 20. And then you have the rigorous background to go through. At that point, hopefully we can fill the 6 officers that we're currently short. Here we're seeing the national shortage of police officers and the trends of less and less people wanting to pursue this career, affecting our local job market. We're currently 6 officers down. Based off of the training cost To replace an officer, $88,000, 162. That total cost to replace our 6 officers that were down is $528,975.84. We have 2 officers that have closed their intent to leave shortly in the near future for higher pay and better benefit at a different position in the law enforcement world. One of those officers is a 20-year employee. Another is an officer with over 6 years of experience. Both are field training officers and instructors that provide great guidance, role models, and mentorship to our department. Cost to replace those 2 would be $176,325. Making our total to replace of 8 officers down, that cost would be $705,301.12 to get our department back up to our authorized staffing levels.
But that's not what it would cost to replace their experience, which would be significant. I mean, it would probably be in that, maybe more than that, 178,000 each.
Absolutely. So speaking of that, a recent example, Officer Zimmerly recently left for what he described as a higher paying job, among other benefits. He allowed us to use some of his training records for this example, as well as a blessing from Major Shy. Officer Zimmerly was hired in January 2014. He was a veteran SWAT operator. He's also a high liability post instructor. For those that don't understand, high liability is top tier when it comes to instructors. In terms of getting that certification, they're allowed to teach some of the most high liability topics such as firearms, defensive tactics, and other courses along those. Throughout his instructorship, he taught numerous classes throughout the year internally, which is a savings to the department and the city. He's a former school resource officer. He's a captain in the National Guard, which brought to our department very strong leadership as well as experience. For his post-training hours, he had 963 post-training hours that were logged with post-record sheets. He also had hundreds of non-post-training hours. For the sake of this comparison, we'll use the post-training hours because we can put a value to that. The total training hour cost of $24,451 and his replacement cost of $88,162 puts a price tag on Officer Zimmerly of $112,613 when he left. His experience was truly priceless as an operator, as well as a patrol officer, somebody that would take the time to do thorough investigations, help younger officers navigate those investigations as well. Losing a veteran officer like that is very detrimental to our department. Not only are we short until we can get somebody through a training process, which would be approximately 30 to 36 weeks to replace him, you have a $112,000 price tag that goes along with that. Currently, in our department, we have some, with the different generations, we're seeing things such as not as much loyalty. Officers, may not be gutting it out for 20 or 30 years like some officers have back in the day, and that's just the way that the generational differences are playing out. We often hear and see officers looking for other jobs with better pay. Some of the local competition that we're now seeing is that somebody could continue to live in the Pocatello area and commute to other cities and departments where they can work there and make more money. And oftentimes they'll have a higher pay rate at that other municipality or department. They'll take less calls. Those two things combined equal less stress for that officer. Looking at the other side of the state in the Treasure Valley, they're actively recruiting officers. I'll show you a comparison here in just a moment.
Because of how well you train.
Yes, because of how well we train. We were recently told by Matt Bloodgood with Post that Pocatello Police Department trains more than any other department in the state. We're obviously very proud of that. We have some wonderful examples to share shortly about how that training has paid off in terms of lives saved. And we also feel that there's some litigation avoided by that training and experience. Over on the other side of the state, you have your big city attractions such as Target and Olive Garden. The jab, hopefully. But those are real things that officers continue to look at as they look at places to raise their families. In terms of experienced officers, training and experience will pay dividends, and especially when we talk about high priority emergencies. The Journal's had a couple really good articles recently. One published today about Sergeant Wadsworth Officer Eldridge and Officer Anderson saving a mother from jumping off of the Monte Vista overpass in front of her 3 children. You know, their experience to get other officers in place to shut down roadways, get other resources coming to help prevent her from potentially ending her life in front of her children, demanded commendation, which they received, as well as showcases their experience and their training being played out in real-time emergencies. Other recent examples would be when a community member recently tragically and violently lost her life, where officers were dedicated to work around the clock to find justice not only for that victim, but for the victim's family, in addition to our community. With experience, you have officers that have better decision-making in terms of use of force, as well as investigations and community interactions. We also feel that experienced officers tend to have less injuries and workman's comp claims. However, obviously in this line of work, we have those types of things quite often. Speaking specifically about our department, we're authorized for 93 sworn officers, hoping to get more to come up to the FBI standards. Population, 55,193. Obviously that swells when school's in session to probably adding another 12 or 15,000 to that population. Our calls for service annually range from 27,000 to 30,000. That number is based off multiple calls or multiple types of law incidents in the same call for service. There may be a DUI and an accident that are grouped together, or maybe a warrant that was served and narcotics were located on that person, which technically would be 2 calls, but is underneath just one law incident. If you take that average, that's an average of 5.5 calls per day. So if you took 27,000 divided by 93, that's 5.5 a day. It's going to be much higher as our administration aren't. They do go out and shed calls, which we appreciate, but on a daily basis, their duties keep them off the street. So your average beat officer would be taking anywhere from 6 to 10 calls on average per day. With that, as discussed in recent council meetings with Val, he's really put emphasis on the number of high priority calls that we take, especially the mental health crisis calls that we've been experiencing. The lady on Monte Vista overpass, and then just recently on Main Street in Clark with a male that was committed to suicide by cop, and making us think that he had a weapon and he intended to start shooting people, or officers that were arriving on scene. Once again, training and experience led to that officer being, or excuse me, to that suspect being neutralized with a less lethal option versus possibly being shot with lethal rounds. We feel that training and experience of the officers on scene led to that resolution. We're going to switch gears and talk a little bit about comparisons now. We have some comparisons that we'll discuss in detail in just a moment, just so everybody understands the criteria that we use to come up with these comparisons. We use similar sized departments and population sizes as our criteria. As aforementioned, we are highly trained, the highest in the state. With that, other departments are actively recruiting us because we have officers that are field training officers, school resource officers. They have numerous certifications. They may be a high liability post instructor or just a general topics instructor. That's a savings to a department in terms of thousands of dollars of training to recruit that person to come work with them. We're going to show some numbers that compare the first 8 years of employment. We chose the first 8 years because with our pay plan, you see a step increase for your first 8 years going from 3rd class all the way to Master Patrol. And then after that 8 years, you test to go to corporal or detective level. So using our comps, which we'll pass around here to you, just keep in mind that we have 93 sworn, a population of 55,193. Our competition and what I would call our direct competition, we feel that Idaho Falls, just north of here by a short 40-minute drive, is a good comparison with 92 sworn officers and a population of 61,076. Another comp just down the road, Twin Falls Police Department with the authorized department size of 77 sworn with population 49,202. Coeur d'Alene, which is very equal in terms of size of department population, has 92 sworn, 50,655. Nampa has 100 sworn with a population of 93,590. Lewiston is a little smaller, 45 sworn, population 32,820. And then Boise is 300 sworn with a population of 226,570. Boise was included because we recently lost 2 officers to the Boise area to work there for both Boise and Meridian. So looking at the comparisons here,
Is the reason why you excluded Meridian?
we couldn't get a hold of their pay scale. We had Boise's. Boise's going to be just about the same as Meridian. So Boise is going to be the one that's actively recruiting laterals for the aforementioned reasons. Once again, we're using the first 8 years of employment because at Pocatello we'll see step increases the first 8 years. As you can see, starting off with our direct competition to the north, we're a little behind the curve. We're not the lowest in terms of the comps, however, as you progress through the comps here, you'll see the gap seems to widen between not only our direct competition to the north, but our other departments that we have here to compare.
And at year 5, we are the lowest.
Year 5 is what we want to talk about as kind of that pivotal point in the police officer's career where they've seen a lot, they've done a lot. They're probably thinking, do I want to stick this out? I'm now vested, I can get my money from Percy when I become eligible. Do I want to stick here and do what I've been doing, or do I want to look elsewhere? If you look at year 5, the temptation is absolutely there if you're looking at pay and benefits.
And on top of year 5 usually in our department, after year 3, is usually the point to where you're allowed to do more things. You could be a canine handler, you can try a SWAT team, you can start doing more things. So by the time between 3 and 5, if you start finding passion in something, then you can maintain even more training and makes you a more valuable officer.
So Brandon, when we talk about a first class, step 3,
Year 5 would be third, second, first. Second step, third step, yeah. So first class, third step.
Third class first.
Yeah, and that just comes right off of our current pay scale that's in the CBA. So year 5, we're an officer determining, do I want to stick with this? Do I want to look for somewhere else to make a little bit more money? The temptation's there. The example that we used earlier with Officer Zimmerly, he left for higher pay. He was about 6 years, so he was right kind of in that window. And how many people we had, so just print it off a bunch. So we'll recycle the extras. So talking about the comparisons, breaking them down. If we take those 6 comps, if you look at your market average, year 1 would be $23.30. We start off at $21.60. Year 2, between the comps, the average between the market rate there, $24.86, and we're $22.68, with a difference of $2.18, which is about 8.8%. And then just working down the line, year 3, market average is $26.98. The Pocatello's rate at year 3 of $23.81. A difference of $3.17, which equates to 11.8%. Year 4 is $27.94 for the market average. Pocatello is $24.41, with a difference of $3.53 an hour, which equates to 12.7%. Year 5, our pivotal point where officers are making decisions to see if the grass is greener on the other side, so to say. We're staying where you're at. Market average is $30.95, and Pocatello pays $25.02. Difference of $5.95, which equates to 19.2%. Year 6, the market average continues to grow to $31.65. Pocatello pays $25.39. The difference is $6.26 an hour. 19.8% is what that equates to. Year 7, the market average is $32.15. Pocatello pays $25.78. Difference is $6.37 an hour, which once again is 19.8%. And finally, At the end of our step increases, the market average in year 8 is $33.25. Pocatello pays $26.16. Difference is $7.09 an hour, which is a staggering 21.3% difference that we are behind the market average at that point. So to be fair, because we knew you'd say it, we took Boise out of the equation to show you what that would look like with similar population size and department sizes. We still see a significant gap that we'd like to discuss at this time. With Boise excluded in those five other comps, year 1, we're 5.3% behind the market. Year 2, 6.4%. Continues to grow as we go on to year 3 at 7.9%. Year 4 is 9.6%. And year 5 that we've been talking about mostly, where an officer is determining if they're going to stay or go, 15.7% behind those market average of those 5 other cities. Year 6, 16.8%. Year 7, 16.7%. And year 8, where we top out at our step progression, is 18.1% behind that market. So when we talk about our competition, as we mentioned, Boise is going to be one of the premier departments in the state that actively recruits laterals. We want to show you what their lateral program is and talk about the incentive that it is for somebody to go and work there. A Boise lateral officer that starts their year 1 of their employment can transfer in and start with a rate of pay of $32.66 an hour. That's more than our sergeants make starting off. Somebody that is a sergeant here could leave, go to Boise, and work without having to supervise officers as a beat officer and make more money at $32.66 an hour. As the years go by, that percentage will greatly increase. I haven't, I don't need to read it all to you, but by the time an officer spends the next 5 years in Boise, they'll be making $37, $34 an hour, with the difference of what they could make here of $12.32 an hour, which is 33%. Once again, talking about that 5-year mark.
Sorry, what did you say it takes to qualify for that lateral program?
3 years. 3 years of service. So the apple is there. Officers are looking at that because we as you know, committed as we are to doing this job, we need to think about our finances and our families and providing a good life for them. And so these are the things that we look at when we talk about pay being our #1 priority. We feel that it's time to make that step forward and make the adjustments that we feel would be in line with the market for our position.
I got a couple questions when you're ready.
Yeah. What's that, Chief?
Well, and I don't know, and that's why I'm asking. Do any of these other places offer hiring bonuses for anything?
We didn't look into that. You know, we have some other resources that we can look into. These are going to be places that officers are looking at in terms of places to go look. You know, when they get out of ISU or they get certified on their own dime or whatever. I don't know what they offer. I mean, we offer a heck of an incentive
Well,
program.
and I
to
just don't know,
tuition
I'm
forgiveness.
asking, I think we're ahead of the game there. I'm
We
not-
are.
Doesn't make a difference in the hourly wage, I'm just trying to look at the big
Yeah.
picture.
So
Um,
if that person has a college degree, right, we have this incentive that not a lot of people know about.
But it
right?
gets them to 5 years,
Well, it gets
Right.
3 years.
yeah, but you're talking about the 5th years when they're looking to go, and
Yeah.
that's